Ah. Another pair of EVOSID cranks. So I already got a pair of these on the full suspension. I made a video about it. It kind of blew up. It's one of my most viewed videos. It got 73.9 thousand views. So roughly 74,000 views. That video made $254 with 78 cents. So whether you hated it or loved it, thank you. Because without you guys watching, I wouldn't have got that money. I had someone ask me if I was gonna install these cranks on my hardtail, and I was hesitant on doing so, but then once that video did so well, I figured it's just me reinvesting the money. I basically got these two pairs of cranks for free. They were both under $100. The video made $254, so I got 2 free cranks and then made some money on top. But so far, the EVOSID cranks on my full suspension have been amazing. I actually really like them. So I wanted to have the same setup on the hardtail. There was a decent amount of comments that were saying EVOSID copied 5dev, you know, with this design. And then there was another comment that kind of made me think. It basically brought up the fact that SRAM GX cranks look identical to 5dev cranks. I just thought that was interesting, you know, because people were saying that EVOSID copied 5dev, but then who copied who with SRAM and 5dev? I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can give me that info. So let's go ahead and jump into this unboxing. The sprocket we got is actually a 34 tooth. I have a 32 on the hardtail, but I wanted to try a 34, see if that makes a difference. Color is titanium. We got some stickers this time with our box. This is our left crank arm. We actually got a preload adjuster screw this time, and it's pretty legit. Check it out. It's got a star bit instead of like a Allen key or hex key, which I prefer better. I feel like these are harder to strip than an Allen key. Then we got our bottom bracket, same one as before with some spacers. Our sprocket bolts, our spindle, and our right crank arm. So everything's pretty much the same. The only difference is I got stickers this time. I actually got a preload adjuster screw, and our bolts to tighten the cranks are titanium or like a silver. The ones on my full suspension have a black bolt. But to me, it doesn't really matter. As long as I can screw it in, that's the most important part. I'm gonna do the same thing as last time and prep one crank arm with the sprocket before getting into this install. You definitely need Loctite for installing these cranks. I was struggling to figure out why the preload adjuster kept getting loose, and this solved my problem. The downside is that I can't remove these bolts. They're pretty much stuck within the crank arm. If I were able to remove them, I think I would use Teflon and then grease. I just like that combo a little better, but with Loctite, I read that it's recommended not to use grease because it interferes with the chemical reaction that goes on with the Loctite. So for this whole install, I'm just going to be using Loctite for the crank arms, and then the bottom bracket I am going to actually use Teflon. And they're switching up on me. These sprocket bolts aren't like a hex key. It's a star bit. Spilled it all over me, but I'm just gonna try to salvage it. have it prepped and ready to go. This bottom bracket is still good. It runs really smooth. I just want to freshen it up, so I'm still gonna take it apart, clean it, and then put it all back together. Ah, oh, jeez, that was rough. Save this in case I ever need to replace it. The thing I don't like about SRAM's preload adjusters is that they're plastic. I feel like the plastic doesn't hold up that well. This guy. The reason I have the bike upside down is because I feel like I have more leverage and control versus when I have it on the stand. But I'm gonna put it on the stand once I remove this bottom bracket. That's too hard. I need some leverage. You gotta work smarter, not harder. Leverage, baby. Let me clean this up. Toss it back on there. This is the old Teflon. And I just love it because it leaves everything super clean. Easy to remove. I got a new Teflon because the other one wasn't working. It's meant for gas, but gonna work for what we need it to work for. When you apply the Teflon, you want to make sure you're doing it in the right direction. There is a right way and a wrong way to apply Teflon. You just want to remember that so that when you screw in the bottom bracket, the Teflon doesn't unwind on you. So you got your Teflon like so. Put a little dab of grease. Alright, greased up, ready to go. Put back the spacers. I'm just gonna leave it snug, and then when I bring it down, we'll tighten it fully. Just do the same on the other side. I'm happy with that. I'm spacing out the cranks, trying to figure out, you know, how many spacers I want on each side. But here's something you want to do before figuring that out, is cleaning the bottom bracket. Check it out how much dirt I have built up. So these spacers have a small groove on it to sit in the bottom bracket. I have so much dirt built up. Can't do it with one hand, but you get the idea. You want to clean off all this gunk so that the spacer can sit inside that groove. I am a dummy. I just realized I put the sprocket on backwards. Back in business. I thought the logo was supposed to be facing outside, but it's supposed to be facing inward, and the bolts sit flush. I don't know why I did that. I was falling asleep there. So this is where we're at. I couldn't get the spacing right with the like default spacers that they give you. They're all the same size. So what I need to do is shave one of the spacers they gave me down just a little bit. So I'm just gonna get some sandpaper and just sand it down. I did that with the full suspension and it worked fine. So I figured I'd have to do it with the hardtail. I was just having some wishful thinking on the fact that I could use the same spacers on both sides, but we're gonna need to shave it. This side where the sprocket's at, the spacing is perfect. I like it. It's the other side that I need to trim it down a little bit. And the thing you want to remember is that you want to apply even pressure on the spacer so your spacer isn't all wonky when you're sanding it. You want it to be smooth, obviously, because it's going to be pushed up against the crank arm. Ideally, you'd want to get the right size spacer, but this is going to be effective as well. It's going to do the same job. Alright, so we got the spacing dialed. I sanded it to where I needed it. I have everything just snug right now. I have to take this crank arm off, grease the spindle, Loctite the bolt and the preload adjuster, and then we're good. Put some on the bolt first. Once you get it to where you like it, screw it down. There we go. I'm happy with that. No play. Perfection. Even got Teflon on the pedals. Still like to add a bit of grease to that. It went a lot smoother than our first install. I guess that's what happens when you learn from your mistakes. You start to figure things out. But this one went smooth. I feel confident that everything's gonna stay in place. It's solid. I just have to wait 24 hours for the Loctite to harden and set. I didn't do that on the full suspension, but it still worked. But the only reason I did that was because I was in a pinch. With this install, I'm not gonna ride it. I have time to let it set, I guess. So we're gonna do that. So I am feeling pretty confident with these cranks. I got a little over a month on the full suspension, and that's what really made me pull the trigger. I also wanted to give you guys more feedback on these cranks. I was mainly just riding my full suspension because I wanted to test out the cranks, but I missed the hardtail, and now that the hardtail has these cranks, it doesn't matter which bike I ride, you know, because I'll be getting feedback on either bike in regards to how well the cranks do. I'm really excited to take this thing out though. I feel like it's just gonna make the experience that much better. Shorter crank arms, 34 tooth sprocket. I went a little bigger because I wanted to see how it's gonna feel on the climbs. This bike is already a better climber than my full suspension just because it's rigid in the back. So I feel like with the 34 tooth, it's just gonna make it that much better. It's gonna be like the ultimate trail bike climber. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. The shorter crank arms and the bigger sprocket. And who knows, if I really love the 34 tooth that much, I might just go ahead and put a 34 tooth sprocket on my full suspension. The reason I didn't think about that or do that with the previous install was because I was running 32 on the full suspension before, and it wasn't bad. I felt good on it. I could climb well. But if I can climb and have it feel better, I'd want to do that. So we're going to test it out. We're going to see. And then I'll decide if I want to throw one on the full suspension. But that is going to finish up this video. I got to clean and get everything back the way it was. I hope you guys enjoyed. And I'll catch you on the next video.